Today we are continuing with the oral history of influential and monumental people here at Florida Tech. Today we're speaking with Kathy Turner. She's been an employee here for how many years?
28 plus.
28 years. Have you had the same position for the whole 28 years?
I've been in the Evans Library the entire time. Of course, I came as a reference librarian and have changed positions several times.
So, starting out, tell us about your background and your education.
Okay, I came here in 1987 after having just completed my Master of Library and Information Studies. So that was a new degree, and I was looking for a position. But prior to that, I had been a high school library media specialist and had fairly well grown up in Florida and lived a lot of other places in the United States. So after I completed the MLIS, I was looking for a place to come, and I job hunted, and I found a position at Florida Tech.
And where'd you live previously?
I came directly from Oklahoma that time, but I had been in Arizona primarily before that.
So what drew you to Florida Tech?
A job. I was looking for a job, and while I was in library school and reflecting on my time in the public school system, I really became enamored with university libraries, with academic libraries. So when I was job hunting, I was looking for a university and really loved the position that was offered to me at Florida Tech and the environment. I liked the environment a lot.
So back in '87, school was much different. What were your first impressions?
I loved all the greenery. I had been away from Florida too long, and I really enjoyed the greenery. And I was inspired by the programs that were here. I thought I was interested in the academic programs at that time, so it was a wonderful fit for me.
So just coming out of the university experience and getting your degree, how did you, what were your impressions of the library at that time?
I thought the library was nice. I liked that building. I liked the Evans Library. Back then it was a fairly new building, so it was delightful. I liked the brand new Evans Library. I think it was about 3 years old at that time. And the library itself, I knew had some room for improvement. I knew from what I had just learned in my master's degree that there were some ideas that I had that I hoped would be interesting or useful to this particular academic library. So I was encouraged. I was excited to come here. I like what I saw.
So out of all the people that you've worked with over the years, are there 2 or 3 people that made the biggest impression on you?
There were a few. I will say that I'm just going to focus on the library people because, of course, I was hired by Deborah Anderson, who from day one pretty much changed my life. She was encouraging. She didn't let me get away with anything. She was very involved in how I was developing as a librarian. And later on, she served as interim dean for the library at a certain time, and I got to see her leadership skills. So she's been very instrumental in my development as a librarian. When I arrived, Dr. Lou Henson was the director, and he was encouraging from day one. He was an interesting man. His style was managed by walking around, and he was everywhere, and he was very influential in helping me really get involved in campus politics. He was the first one to encourage me to do that, so that was good. And then Celine Lange was, in her own way, so influential because she brought a perspective to the Evans Library that it did not have before. And she was in the right place at the right time to move us along in technology, to get us, online and so forth, so that was great. And then, of course, our current dean, Soher Wistawi, thinks in ways that nobody I know thinks, and she has really moved us along as well. And I've watched all of those people and learned a lot from them and been really influenced in my own career by them. And I think they've made some great strides, some great improvements in the library and in the campus.
So of the 4 presidents, can you give us your impression of the former presidents and current president and future president?
Absolutely. Well, of course, Dr. Cooper was still living when I came to Florida Tech, to FIT at the time. And I remember a day I was just being a reference librarian. I was probably, quote unquote, on duty. And I went back to the special collection, and there was a man in there. And I thought, okay, I'm probably supposed to do something about this if there's somebody in special collections. So I went around to the manager of the desk, the circulation desk, and I asked, who is the man? There's a man in special collections. And she said, does he have a bow tie on? And I said, yes. She said, that's Dr. Cooper. So I got to know Dr. Cooper just a little bit. I've had the pleasure of getting to know him much more in recent years because of the library's new university archives. Gotten to know about him, had the privilege to talk to some people who really knew him, and his daughter, and of course Gordon Patterson, who has a lot to share about Dr. Cooper and his collection. So I've gotten to know Dr. Cooper more in recent years, but I did have the privilege of knowing him a little bit in the early years. The second president, John Miller, had already completed his term when I got here, so I didn't really know him as a president of the university, but I knew him more as a colleague, and he was a great friend of the library. He was in the library a lot, and he was such a presence. He was everywhere. I can remember especially at commencements when the faculty would line up to go in the procession, and Dr. Miller always had on the regalia that now is in our university archives. It was the one that Werner von Braun had been given when he spoke at a FIT commencement, which then Werner von Braun gave back to the university, and Dr. Miller wore it. And it was, it sort of waved in the breeze. It was the way he moved, and so I just can always see him walking around in that big gown. But he was just very pleasant and a great friend of the library. He spent a lot of time in the library. And the year that I arrived in '87 was also Dr. Weaver's first year. He came in August, I think, and then I came later in the year. So I got to know him a little bit in the early days, but I really got to know him when I was Faculty Senate President, because the Faculty Senate President has a strong relationship with the academic, well, then it was the Vice President for Academic Affairs, but and the President's office in that way. So I got to know him a little bit because some things took place that then required him to work directly with me on some faculty issues. So I got to know Dr. Weaver a bit during that time and have known him on and off. I've gotten to know some things about him. I enjoyed interacting with him at particularly sporting events at Florida Tech. But then also in recent years when he gave his papers to the university archives, and we've just been able to work together on that. So I have probably the most relationship, so to speak, with Dr. Weaver, and have certainly enjoyed interacting with him over time. President Catanese, Dr. Catanese is, I find, so very open and willing to chat. He has sat down a number of times at lunch just to chat, and he's open to new ideas. One day I told him about my work with the local science and engineering fairs in the secondary schools, and I told him that we were missing an opportunity by not offering scholarships affiliated with those, and I left that lunch with 6 presidential scholarships allotted to the science fairs. So I have just found him to be very receptive to new ideas and willing to take action on them.
Well, you'll be gone by the time the new president comes on board, but
I know. Well, I know Dr. McKay a little bit too. I think that it's going to be an interesting number of years with him at the helm. But I think he's got some great ideas about how to make things work and better at Florida Tech. So I look forward to hearing about that.
Well, good, and hopefully you'll come back and visit us and firsthand knowledge.
I will do that. I will tell him what I think as well. He's too is very open to hearing what people have to say, I think.
Okay, so here's the time for your memories. Do you have any good memorable experiences or times with founders?
With the founders, I've enjoyed looking at the oral histories of many of those founders, which are available on the Evans Library website, by the way. But I guess Jerry Cooper was pretty much the founder that I knew the best. I, too, have gotten to know some of the founders by way of the archives because of, and our work with the Radiation Inc. Special collection and so forth. So The founders, I don't think I have so much memories, so many memories to share. There are other people though that have
Faculty?
I've known. Faculty. I have, been fortunate to know a lot of the faculty being in the library, of course, a neutral place where back in the day people had to actually visit in order to use. So I've enjoyed getting to know a lot of the faculty who have come and gone at Florida Tech.
Any staff that you particularly remember?
Well, sure. I think over time, Rosemary Keene comes to mind, who worked in the library for many years, and she was, if there was anybody that exemplified high tech with a human touch, it was her. She had relationships and ongoing relationships with I think the library has employed maybe 600 students over the last 20 years or something like that, which is a lot of students, and I think she had good relationships with just about every one of them, and they all loved her, and she was just a great heart at this university, and she's missed still. I can't think of anyone else in particular that comes to mind yet. I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, all right. Any memorable students, good or bad?
Well, sure, there are a few and that come to mind, some graduate students that I worked very closely with and have followed their careers, and that's just very good to think about. But in particular, I won't name specific students, but I taught a course for many years, and those were one of the happiest times for me because I personally think Florida Tech students, and I'll say it again and again, are brilliant and nice and good looking. And when I see some of the events we've had in the library recently, I also think they're talented and have fabulous leadership skills and so forth. So I just think a lot of Florida Tech students, and I will definitely miss. I do already miss the interaction with the students.
All right. So what about that would be really hard after 28 years. What's your most memorable moment? Your time here at Florida Tech so far?
I think I can answer that one, actually. On a personal note, I think my most memorable moment is on the very day I started here at Florida Tech, December 1st, 1987, the then head of reference, Deborah Anderson, said to me, "You have to meet Dr. Turner. He's always in the library." And sure enough, I met Dr. Turner that day, and over time we became friends and so forth, and now I bear his last name, so there you go. So that was a memorable moment for me, the moment that I met him. But I think probably my most memorable moment professionally was the day that Dr. Weaver announced the Olin Gift, because he and I had worked very closely on his efforts, talking about his efforts to get that gift. And it was quite a bit of time after that the gift was actually given, and they had the press conference when he announced the F.W. Olin Foundation gift. And I still remember I stood in the back of the room and leaned on the wall and, listened to the announcement, and the Olin Foundation representatives were there and so forth. It was a moment. I really appreciated that.
So that kind of brings us to an accomplishment or contribution.
Well, my contribution, I guess a contribution that I think I made was when I was Faculty Senate President, because the F.W. Olin Foundation did not wish to be identified, and so it had to be kept a secret who this company, this organization was that President Weaver was working with. Had to be kept a secret. And the faculty at that time were not really keen on not knowing what was going on. So President Weaver and I worked closely in order to keep the faculty encouraged that there was something worthwhile going on, but also keeping the anonymity of the foundation. So that was I'm proud that happened. I'm proud that took place, because the foundation was very definitely interested in not being found out until they had actually made their decision. So I'm proud of that. That was an accomplishment, I think, keeping the faculty comfortable with all of that.
And that was the largest gift we'd received to date.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was huge.
Yes.
back when our endowment was so very
Yes.
little.
Yeah, and you don't have to look far at all to see the benefits of the Olin gifts.
Okay, any advice for people that will follow you?
Well, sure. I think we're onto something here at FIT, Florida Tech, Florida Institute of Technology, to keep the quality of the programming, but not lose the one-on-one interaction. I mean, you really hear all the time how powerful that is and how worthwhile it is and how it helps in building careers. And I just hope that we don't miss that. I hope we don't lose track of that, because the quality is so important, and the integrity of knowing, what a degree from Florida Institute of Technology is about. So I hope that people continue to work toward that.
So I'm sure it changed over the 28 years, but what would be the one thing that got you up every day and made you want to come to work?
I've thoroughly enjoyed my jobs over time, making a difference, I think, because especially in information work, it's so incremental. Like you work with people again and again and again in order to get them from, say, an original thought that they've had to the finished product. And so that was pretty interesting to me, to keep up with those little incremental pieces and parts of the research that took place. And I love the people. I think we are a Florida Tech family, and 3 out of 4 of our children went to school here. We just love Florida Tech. One of our children finished a degree here, went to work for Florida Tech. So I just love this place. I find the people to be, I'm telling you, brilliant, good-looking, nice, and talented. I thoroughly enjoy the people, and that is just really what brought me here and kept me here.
So as technology has changed over the last 28 years immensely, was there a time when you were worried that the library would become obsolete?
I never worried about that. I was probably a bit of a Pollyanna about that, but I've just seen, literally, with our leadership that we've had, how we have looked for ways to meet the needs of the faculty and the students and the staff, and that changes all the time, but I think we've continued to do that. I find it really interesting in the last few years how we have now implemented our university archives, which serves a big purpose around here, and implemented our digital scholarship lab, which is meeting the needs of research like never before. So I didn't worry so much about that, but I'm happy to see how the changes are being made. I don't know if it will continue to be this way, but currently our gate count, as they say, the number of people who actually physically come into the building every day, is going up and up. And that's not because they have to come into the building to get a book or to read a journal. Of course, we've made a lot of that available worldwide. But it's because there's collaborations and all kinds of interactions that go on in the library that contribute to their academic success. And for some of them, their career success. It's pretty, it's good stuff. And we're moving in those directions all the time.
Well, this may or may not be applicable, but did you ever have a relationship with a student that you grew fond of or had a moving experience with?
One student comes to mind. She had just about every obstacle that you could think of during her time at Florida Tech, but she persevered. She was a very dependable, brilliant, good-looking, nice, talented worker. She was wonderful to work with, and it took her a little while to complete her degree, but just recently she was in touch, and she's now, I believe I think she's in the Atlanta area, but she's a doctor, and she really looks back to her time at Florida Tech as teaching her a lot about how to do life, but also to learn what she needed to learn. I believe she was pre-professional biology and then went on to medical school. So she definitely comes to mind as somebody who always had a smile on her face, was always dependable, always made sure that she was doing what she needed to do, and has really persevered and had a great life. It makes me very happy to hear from her and to find out how she's doing.
It's nice that you're still in touch with her after all this time. So out of all the activities that go on here at Florida Tech, what's the most fun thing that you like that happens in the year?
At Florida Tech, golly. Okay, you probably want me to answer this honestly. So the most fun,
No, you can lie.
the most fun. I do enjoy this time of year. May not be fun. Well, of course, there's the WFIT Market Day, which is just a hoot.
No plugs here now, come on.
This time of year are all the ceremonies and award ceremonies and so forth, and it really is fun to me because you get to see the progress that people are making and the accomplishments, the fairs, the competitions that our students are in and so forth. It really reminds me what the mission is of this university and how it's playing out, and I just love seeing all these accomplished people celebrated. It's kind of neat.
So for the future generations in the next 50 or 100 years from now, what kind of message would you send to them?
50 to 100 years? Well, I know that universities as a whole will always be looking around to see what is needed in the workforce and in developing in the world. But I think that, as I would say, future generations who are in any way affiliated with Florida Tech is to continue to make things better, because the world is in need of things being a lot better. And I think that Florida Tech, with its history, has the wherewithal to make a difference in making the world better.
So when you tell people that you work here, are you proud that
Absolutely.
of all the accomplishments that have come out of this university?
I'm very proud to be affiliated with Florida Tech and to tell my family and friends and so forth about some of the differences that Florida Tech is making and some of the strides that they're making, and how the research is actually applicable in the world. There are many things that are going on around here that are making the community and the world better, and it does make me proud. And I'm proud to be affiliated with the people at Florida Tech.
So what's next for you?
Well, retirement. I have I look forward to doing some things, some travel and some fun things. I really do know how to have a little bit of fun, and I have some fun things I'm going to reincorporate into my life, and maybe even something that is might be a little bit important or useful or something as well. But I do have a lot of travel planned between now and the fall, so I'm looking forward to enjoying some discretionary time.
Well, good, and well deserved. Any other stories that you'd like to share with us?
I would like to share something a little bit about the role of the Faculty Senate President, because I think that's something that a lot of people are unaware. And so I became active in the Faculty Senate early on at the encouragement of the director, because it was a specific welfare issue that I thought needed to be addressed. So I got involved in the Faculty Senate. And 3 or 4 years later, I was asked to run for Senate President. And I realized how the university leadership pays attention to what the Faculty Senate has to say and what important changes, what important improvements need to be made for the welfare of the faculty and everyone at the university. So I enjoyed that, and as I said earlier, I think I was able to make some kind of difference. But then I have watched over the years, and I see, again, some very significant work. It is a lot of work, but some very significant work that has benefited the university as a result of the relationship of the Faculty Senate President and the university. 2 people in particular, Russ Graves, who followed me, who then continued to work with President Weaver on the Olin Foundation situation, and Jen DeLynn, who was critical in making things better for all the faculty here, as far as his dogged approach to salary improvement, which has really paid off at this university. So just the unsung hero, a category of unsung heroes would be, I think, the Faculty Senate Presidents, because it is a lot of work, but there's a lot of a benefit that the university gets from those people. Did I answer your question?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so. So being married to a faculty member and having your daughter involved here and your children go to school here, was there ever a time when you were just overwhelmed with Florida Tech? You didn't feel like you could ever get away from it?
Probably, but not anything that comes to mind. It has been very interesting to see how Florida Tech operates from a variety of viewpoints. When my children, 3 of my children were here, we made it our policy not to discuss our children with any of their instructors or faculty members and so forth, because we wanted them to have the most positive experience here. We wanted our children to have a great experience here, and we didn't want having us around to be a problem with that. And I think that has been wonderful, because we've been able to experience in from all kinds of directions, and come to know it more and appreciated a lot of aspects of the university that we wouldn't know from our own perspective. So, yeah, sometimes we could stand to close the door a little bit but no, I just really, like I said, I love Florida Tech, and I've enjoyed all those kinds of different pieces and parts. I like this place.
Well, good.
I look forward to being able to do something useful in the future here to help out with something.
And you will be gravely missed.
Well, thank you very much. Gravely, oh my goodness.
Gravely.
Gosh, okay. But thank you, I appreciate that you think I will be missed. I'd like to come work the WFIT fundraiser. I love to call people on the phone and have them call me on the phone and tell me stuff. So.
And give you money?
Yeah,
we love that too.
I know a tiny bit about development processes these days, so it'll be fun. I can do that. But my first priority is University Archives. Well, that too, but as far as some kind of work at Florida Tech, I would like to continue to contribute to the University Archives, the Harry P. Weber University Archives.
Okay. Well, Kathy, we want to thank you for your 28 years of dedicated service here at Florida Tech. You've definitely made a difference and an impact, and we hope that this opportunity to share your feelings as other pioneers of Florida Tech's history have done. It's important that we archive these people who have made a difference in the life of Florida Tech, and we hope that future generations will learn from your enthusiasm and your love for Florida Tech. Thank you so very much.
You're very welcome.